The third pattern that I've found, and probably the one I've enjoyed building the most, is using the Azure DevOps model of the self-hosted agent. In the previous two patterns, this would require the OpenShift API to be exposed to Azure DevOps in the cloud. However, in this model, the OpenShift API does not have to be exposed, and this is perhaps the best option for private clusters. So at a high-level view, in this pattern or demo, I'm working with the Azure pipelines, but rather than an Azure hosted agent, I'm directing my pipeline to be run within a self-hosted agent. In this case, I've got a pod in OpenShift. The pod is running in a service account with sufficient permissions for what it needs to do, like store containers and the image registry, etc. I've elected to use the OC tool in the demo, so an OC source to image build. So I have a generic agent which can pretty much run any type of job using the OC tool, using whether it's be Python, Node, .NET, Java, all capabilities of the source to image in OpenShift. So as the service account, and now a difference with the previous one, I haven't had to add the OpenShift token placed within the Azure pipelines because this is running in a service account already running in the pod. So it's already logged in to OpenShift and I don't have to place that token anywhere. Let's have a closer look. But what I have had to do is have some setup in Azure DevOps, and I've had to get a personal access token. This personal access token is what the self-hosted agent is using to connect into Azure DevOps. It's also connecting within an agent pool, so I'm capable of scaling that self-hosted agent up as much as I like in OpenShift. That's the way I've built it. I've also sort of got some variables that you'll see within the Azure DevOps, and the beauty is that some of these variables can come down into the self-hosted agent. So as well as my code within Git, I can control that pipeline in the self-hosted agent with various different variables. The example's also showing how you can copy the image out into the Azure Container Registry by using a container tool called Scopio, which simply does copy the image from one registry to another. So in this example, you'll see an S2I build, and it will do a deploy. Within the OpenShift, I've set up a project in a service account, and I've actually had to install the self-hosted agent. So let's have a look at the demo. Okay, let's get into our last example with the self-hosted agent, and it's going to use actually sort of behind the scenes a .NET 3.1 example. Before I sort of get into it, you sort of the Docker file that I generated with the agent. Now, how I sort of I actually templated the install, which you can simply easily do with all your projects in OpenShift. And what I've done is actually build a couple of templates. So here is a template where I instantiated to actually sort of get the self-hosted agent sort of running in or the container image running. I've specified an OpenShift version and Azure agent version in my particular self-hosted agent. So beyond that, after that, I then sort of once that base container image was built, I then went on to specify my personal access token and the Azure pool name for my particular agent. Now I actually have the agent running here. So that's now running. It's using my personal access token connect to Azure DevOps. And if I now have a look at that agent, what I would do in Azure DevOps is go into agent pools. I've registered this under the name of OpenShift agent. And let's have a look at the agents that are registered. So I can see I've got one online, which is that particular pod running in OpenShift. So let's just go and kick off the pipeline, which uses the self-hosted agent. And it's this .NET example. Now this does take a while. So we will fast forward some elements of this. So if we have a look at that pipeline, I'll just show you what it's doing. So we've got the build job. We're just sort of cleaning up at the beginning, doing an OC delete, creating a new build. We're doing a source to image, and the .NET examples do have a number of configuration properties that you can set within that build. Now we also once that container image is built, we're doing a Scopio copy, and you can see I've passed in my Azure container user and password into this job. Now they come down through the different variables that you see here. So that's quite quite unique that I can set variables outside of my GitHub within the Azure DevOps that will be running in the self-hosted agent within OpenShift. So there's lots of permutations that you could go along and understand how to control the flow of your particular Azure DevOps pipeline. So once we store that image in ACR, we'll just create a new app and expose that app. So let's have a look at how that's running. And we'll fast forward till we get the end and have a look. If you want to look at what's happening in OpenShift, let's have a look at the pod view. And you can see within the agent that actually has kicked off a different process, but you can see it's running the build job here in the logs. So that's actually executed an OC command. And this is the actual build job that's running. And so within Azure DevOps though, we are getting that standard out that's being piped back into Azure DevOps, and will be available to be viewed once that job's completed.